Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are coming in from. I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict, cultivate communication, and create empowered teams. So, work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish, that we can do all of those things together. And so today on Monday Mentor, it is a mini workshop. It is a solo episode of Monday Mentor. And today we're going to talk about how self-awareness gets you paid more. So we talk about self-awareness a lot in leadership circles. And if you've done any kind of leadership training, it should, if it is a good leadership training, it should begin with self-awareness. But we hear this term and we're like, what is it? And how does it help? And I'm sure I'm self-aware. And so today I am going to give you the resources to talk about, first of all, what is it? Like, what is actually self-awareness, and what are the results that it gets you? And then how you can dig in more to help you in your leadership. And so that is our mini workshop today. So if you are joining me live, let me know that you are here live. You can put it in the comments and where you're coming in from. If you are joining me on the replay, let me know that you are here on the replay, and I will come back and answer questions that you have in that way. So, first of all, how does self-awareness get you paid more? So what is self-awareness and how does it work? So the first thing, self-awareness is understanding your internal world and the way that you are interpreted outside of you. So it is internal and external. So there's multiple components of self-awareness. And I want to begin with how it actually helps you. So there's lots of research around this. There's several, A.H. Church, Tasha Ulrich. There are many organizational psychologists who have studied self-awareness. You are not going to go read those research studies, so I'm just going to show you what it gets you. So in this lovely little chart that we have here, I know it's a little hard to see on your screen, especially if you're watching on your mobile device or if you're listening with this in the background. So here's what it does. When you have high levels of self-awareness, the team that you want to be is Team Purple, just so you know. That's the high levels of self-awareness team. Team Pink are the low levels of self-awareness. So teams that have high levels of self-awareness and have high leaders that have high levels of self-awareness have higher levels of decision quality. So that means they make better decisions. They have higher levels of collaboration, which usually results in better innovation and product ideas. They have better conflict management, which you've been around a hot second, at least you've heard me say before that saves you 3 hours a week, because in unresolved conflict. So if you have better conflict management, you're saving time and money in that way. They have higher levels of profit. And isn't that what we're in business partially for? And higher levels of happiness in general. They typically have better social emotional control, and their teams have a general sense of higher levels of culture and climate surveys. They also have more committed and engaged teams. So when you have that type of results from self-awareness, isn't that the thing that you want? So that is why when we say self-awareness gets you paid more, it's because of these types of outcomes. You make better decisions. You have better conflict management. You have higher levels of employee and job satisfaction. You have more promotions. You get paid more. You get greater levels of profit. That's what you want. So on Team Pink on the other side, you're like, but wait, where did Team Pink go up over there? Teams that have low levels of self-awareness and leaders that have low levels of self-awareness have higher incidences of anxiety. They have higher incidences of stress, also depression. I didn't put that on this chart. And they have higher levels of employee turnover. So if you think about employee turnover in a dollar amount, so most research that I have read in organizational studies that when you replace an employee, it takes about 150% of that employee's salary to replace them in a year. So which means, because you're doing training, you're doing onboarding, you're doing offboarding, all of those things, you've lost some institutional knowledge, you've lost some trust, usually with a client, if you're bringing in a new person. So employee turnover is costly. So let's just say the average company, your average salary is $75,000. That's close to the median salary in the US. If you're replacing that person, now I just picked really bad math because because half of that is $37.50. So that is over $100,000 that you're charging your company to replace that employee. And that's just if you lose one employee. So this low self-awareness team or a low self-awareness leader absolutely has a monetary cost. That's what it's costing you. Literal dollars. But it's also costing you this high levels of anxiety, high levels of stress, which reduces your ability to make great decisions, to manage conflict, to even think about growing in order to get the next promotion. So if all of these are the outcomes, if the high, great outcomes are better decision making, higher happiness, more profit, and the outcomes you don't want, high anxiety, stress, employee turnover, what is self-awareness and how do we get more of it? So I love the Johari window as a way to explain self-awareness. It puts it in a great grid. We all love a good model. So the first one is something that is known to you and known to others. Because remember, there's two components, external and internal. So something that is known to you and known to others, we call open. So if you have been around a minute, I would love for you to put in the comments of things that you know about me. I am sure some of those things are that I talk pretty quickly. I laugh a lot. I'm probably going to sing at some point. I like to talk with people around leadership. I talk about conflict resolution. I talk about the Enneagram. These are things that you know about me. These are also things I know about me. And when something is in the open, you can do something about it. If something is not in the open, if it's hidden, you can't solve for it. You can only address what you see and acknowledge is there. You can only address what you see and acknowledge is there. So what is known to you, what is known to yourself, and is known to others, we put that in the open category. And we're always trying to get to that box. That's the box we're always trying to move toward, that upper right quadrant of a quadrant grid, because that's when we can create change. So that's the first part of self-awareness. The second one is when it's known to you, but it's actually hidden from others. We call that facade. Now, a facade is not a bad thing. The front of your house is called a facade. That's not fake. It's just the front. And so what is hidden from others, they can only see the front. They can't see what's inside of you and what you know is there. And digging into what is in your internal self-awareness is the first step of leadership growth. It's really hard to do all the rest of it. It's hard to do communication skills. It's hard to do decision making. It's hard to improve your writing. It's hard to do all of that other leadership stuff, all those skill-based things, if you don't know where you are, if you don't know what's inside of you, because skills are like tools. So if I'm going to use a pen is a great tool. I love a good pen. This is my favorite Inkjoy Papermint pen, if you care. But in order to pick up this pen, I have to know where I am. I have to know how to hold it. I have to understand which hand I even hold it in, because I'm not holding it with my toes. And while I can sort of write with my left hand, I'm right-handed. So you have to know yourself in order to use any kind of tool that comes your way as a leader. So that's why facade is so important. In a few weeks, I am actually getting a group of women leaders together to dig into this key piece of self-awareness. It's called the Catalyst Retreat, Developing the Power of You so you can get confident and lead better. And the big idea of this is great teams start with great leaders. So at this retreat, it's going to be limited to 12 people. So it's a very exclusive place. We're going to dig into that aspect of self-awareness, understanding who you are, understanding your values, understanding your style. We're going to do that over the course of 3 days in St. Louis, Missouri. I've got all kinds of exciting things planned to help you walk away with a leadership alignment, that better leadership mindset, and understanding your leadership style. My favorite part is actually you're going to walk away with a plan. We're going to do some application work. So you don't just come to a retreat and be like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I feel so fulfilled. And come back to your life with emails and Slack messages and permission slips for school and driving carpool, all of that. We're going to create a plan that fits for you. And so if you are interested in that, you can say in the comments Catalyst, or you can shoot me a DM, and I would love to talk to you about Catalyst, because we're going to dig in to that facade part of self-awareness. So that's the first half of the quadrant. The next half of the quadrant is what's hidden from you. So what's hidden from yourself and what is known to others is called our blind spot. We all have blind spots. If you are human, you have a blind spot. And how we get from facade to open is called self-disclosure. When it's in the open, we can do something about it. The way we get from blind spot to open is almost just as vulnerable. It's feedback. You need to elicit feedback. You need to get feedback from people in order to move that blind spot into the open. And there's all kinds of ways you can elicit feedback, and some of those are personal feedback from people. You can do a 360. Some of that is personality tools. Personality tools are a great way to see what you're not quite sure about that other people see about you. Things like StrengthsFinders, Myers-Briggs, Colby-Disc, the colors even are helpful tools. They just don't do everything. They fall short of helping you understand a little bit more about what's inside of you, but they do a really great job of showing you what other people are experiencing you, and a little bit of showing you what's inside of you. But these components of self-awareness, eliciting feedback, is a key leadership skill. And that is why understanding yourself, this piece of self-awareness, gets you paid more, because when you elicit feedback, you understand things you couldn't see before. And a leader is not all knowing. I hate to break it to you. I am not omniscient, and neither are you. You can't see all the things. You don't know what you don't know. So being able to understand what's in your blind spot and get that over to open, where you can do something about it, is a huge self-awareness tool. So now we've got a box that's pretty dark, and it's what's hidden from you, hidden from yourself, and what's hidden from others. What's hidden from you and what's hidden from others. Well, how do we get there? Like, if it's hidden from you and hidden from others, how do we even begin to move it into blind spot or facade, or kitty corner over into open? What are you going to do? And so the key tool that I love using to help people get into that unknown spot, which is a little scary, and if we're being real honest, what you don't know is frightening. It's a scary place to be. I remember the first time I worked with this tool, I was like, I don't know that I wanted other people to know that about me, because I didn't even know that about me. So I'm just acknowledging the fear. But what I have discovered is that when I grow the most is when I look at the parts of myself that I didn't understand, I didn't like, or I didn't even know were there. That's when the growth happens. And every time I help a client, and every time I'm working with a team and we dig into that, growth is exponential. It is so valuable. And so the tool that I love to use is the Enneagram. If you've never heard of the Enneagram before and you're like, what? The Enneagram is a self-awareness tool. It's a wisdom tool. It's a personality framework. And it helps us see why we think, act, and feel the way we do in the world. So if you are interested in learning more about the Enneagram and the 9 types, you can go right here. You can go to jenwhitmer.com/Enneagram. It's a free resource for you, and you can grab that. And it helps you understand more of what's been unknown to you, because sometimes we're unaware of what's motivating us, the deep, deep old stories, because they just feel like normal to us. You don't know they're back there. And that's why a tool is incredibly powerful into the Enneagram. In fact, I just got a text message about a team that I worked with a couple months ago, and I'm not going to disclose names, so I'm going to, cover the names correctly in a sec. But she said, I had a really difficult conversation today with this employee who was in our training about missing some deadlines. And she says, I can't tell you how helpful it was to know her Enneagram and approach the conflict with that in mind. So she was going to have to give some hard feedback as a leader, but because she knew something about that person, that unknown aspect, She could help get that into where she could see it in their blind spot and move it into open. Now, here's the second text, because she knew this about herself. It took all of my Enneagram 7 energy, also an Enneagram 7, to have the conversation. I'm truly exhausted from it, but it was powerful. So that is what self-awareness can do, because what she knew about herself and what she understood about somebody else, because they used the Enneagram to move from unknown into open, she's had an amazing conversation. That's what happens when you use self-awareness. Now, this particular company, if somebody's not meeting deadlines, their clients become unhappy. And if clients become unhappy, they don't pay you. I'm just going to connect the dots. They don't rehire you. They don't recommend you. This is why self-awareness is such an important tool. It's an incredibly valuable tool for you as a leader, but also for your team. So when you grow in that self-awareness, when we dig into, at the Catalyst Retreat, we dig into that facade piece and that unknown piece. These are the type of outcomes that you get. You have a better understanding of how to approach an employee to give them hard feedback, which then creates a better experience for the employee and a better client experience because your work product is better. All of that happens when you dig into self-awareness. It's the foundational tool of being great and effective leader. It's also the way to greater joy. It's the way to work doesn't have to be this hard because you understand who you are. You're not trying to beat around in the dark and figure it out. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're like, oh, right, this is part of who I am. And here is how that impacts my work. You feel so much more confident. And that changes how you approach your team. It changes how you approach your boss. It changes how you approach your clients and the people who live in your house. So self-awareness not only is a key tool at work, it's also a key part of your whole life as a human living in the world with other people. So if you are really wanting some more of this, I just want you to consider for a moment, what would be possible for you if you improved your self-awareness? If you're brave enough to put it in the comments and bring it into the open for us, I'm going to give you that little challenge, but at least write it down. What would be possible for you if you improved your self-awareness? Think about that. It changes us. And I didn't say this at the beginning. One of the other key pieces of research shows that only about 10% of us are truly self-aware. It is a continual growing experience, because when I'm talking with scientists, I often talk a lot about the variables change. You're the variable and the other person is the variable. So we grow in self-awareness because the variables change. So what does it make possible for you if you not only improved your self-awareness, but you had a framework to return to over and over again that helped you when the variables changed? What could that make possible for you in your business? What could that make possible for you in your career track, on your team, and what your team could accomplish? What does that make possible in your life? It does amazing things. So if you'd like to grow a little bit more, I would love to offer you a Spark call. So a Spark session is literally a phone call. It's a phone call, and we're going to take a look at what's working and what isn't. We're going to uncover the most depressing problem that you've got that's keeping you stuck and identify what's next for you as a leader. And so in that Spark section, you can go to, I'll just put it back up. You can go to jenwhitmer.com/spark call, and we'll set up a 15-minute phone call. And it's literally like, I'm going to talk to you on this very phone, not that way, this way. And we're going to do those 3 things. And that's a great next step for you. And what that will do for you is open up parts of self-awareness. I really hope that understanding how self-awareness gets you paid more actually gets you excited about, oh, I could get unstuck. And the way to get there is getting that higher levels of self-awareness. What could that do for you and your team? And if you are interested in that Catalyst retreat, just shoot me a DM and I would love to talk to you about it. And if you're like, I'm not ready for that yet, but I really am curious about other things, shoot me a DM and say, I want to know what's next. and I will help you make that decision. Self-awareness is the number one leadership skill that you need. It's what creates a healthy team, and a healthy team starts with a healthy leader. You need self-awareness to succeed. And there are, as we talk today, these multiple components of self-awareness. I am rooting for you because I understand that it's scary. It's scary to dig into self-awareness work, but it is the most powerful thing you can do to improve your leadership. So Monday Mentor is over for this Monday. Next week, I will be here. It will be another mini workshop, and we're going to talk about why values-based decision-making is profitable. And so I would love to talk to you some more. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week.